What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the KC Tailgaters Show. I'm Jordan Anderson. With me, as always, my guy, Marcus Baker. Marcus, how we doing? We are 1 day away from NFL football. We are only 3 days away from Kansas City Chiefs football. How we feeling?
Feeling great. Christmas Eve. That's what it is for us.
Amen to that.
Feeling. We're on the eve of a highly anticipated game between the Bills and the Rams. Potential Super Bowl preview. We hope not, but we'll see what happens with that. Just excited for football to be back in its truest form. I mean, the games matter now. I know we've had a blast this last week and a half via sports betting. We've really been enjoying that. That was a game changer in Kansas. So we've won some and we've lost some heartbreakers. I know we all have. But hey, it just adds another layer of excitement to what we love, and that being football, and just looking forward to the season, looking forward to breaking down some of these awards here and really getting our predictions out for this season and what it's going to look like. So just looking forward to it and excited to be back for another one.
For sure, guys. Awesome show planned. We're going to get right into it. We're talking NFL award predictions. Like we mentioned last episode, we're going to give you guys our Super Bowl 57 winners, matchups there as well. And then we're going to talk about pregame. Kansas City traveling to Arizona. It is the afternoon game. Tony Romo, Jim Nance. Jim Nance, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson on the call in Arizona. So, Marcus, let's go ahead and get into this NFL awards. You know my MVP. I've said it to multiple people time and time again. I think this is an absolute revenge tour for this guy this year. It's no doubt here. I'm taking Patrick Mahomes for MVP. People are thinking that he's going to struggle. National media is writing us off already. I'm not here for it. I mean, yeah, I'm a Chiefs homer. I get it, but I don't know, man. I just think he's on a rampage. Being number 8 on the NFL Top 100 kind of shocked me. I thought he'd be at least top 5. How you give it to Tom Brady over Aaron Rodgers at number 1, I have no idea. But anyway, Patrick Mahomes is my MVP. Who you got?
I'm not even going to jump into that top 100 conversation because that list it proves to be a joke year in and year out. I mean, Creed Humphrey was the best center in the game. He's not on the list. So you take it for what it is. This one hurts me a little bit, but I'm kind of trying to do that devil's advocate side and not be a homer from this perspective, just on the MVP for sure. I think you got to look at the young guys. I think Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, I think whichever one of those two teams is the most successful has a real shot. I wouldn't even say dark horses because I think they could be grouped into that 4 or 5 favorites. Because really, it's gotten to the point where it's genuinely it's a quarterback award. I mean, if a guy like Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, barring health for those last two, if they could break the rushing record, they may have a shot at it. But it's just in its truest form become a quarterback award. And weapons-wise, Burrow's got everything he needs with that improved offensive line. It wouldn't surprise me one bit to see him go ahead and win that award. So that's my dark horse for it, or my pick, unfortunately.
I mean, a lot of people are taking that also. Moving on to Coach of the Year. I'm going to go ahead and let you go first on Coach of the Year. Who you got?
I went back and forth with a few guys on this. My heart says Dan Campbell. Really enjoyed Hard Knocks. These guys are going to fight for him. They're a dark horse or surprise playoff team, in my opinion. I think they're a team that's going to compete for that 6th or 7th spot. They're in the NFC. But I didn't go Dan Campbell here. I went Kevin O'Connell. I think you look at what the Rams have been able to do offensively. Being a Sean McVay guy, he's coming into a scheme with a lot of offensive talent. You look at Dalvin Cook. I mean, that's your dual weapon in the truest form. Him and Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, those are guys that you can build and predicate your entire offense around. And to have a guy like that and then have a consistent production guy in Kirk Cousins, he's not the guy that's going to put the team on his back and win it on prime time with the lights on him. But we've talked about this off camera a little bit. He's a guy that I really see having the potential to be a long shot. Like if I'm putting money down on somebody, it's Kirk Cousins 50-1 on MVP, or 40-1. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's 40-1, but you look at what he's done in the passing game under Mike Zimmer, who's a defensive guy. You bring in a guy like Kevin O'Connell. You've got Justin Jefferson. You have Adam Thielen. I think they just made an addition potential. I can't remember. For some reason, I'm thinking they added somebody. And then they had the Osborne kid that really started to show some potential last year. KJ, I think, is his first name. All in all, I think that offense has what it takes, and they've had a solid defense for year in and year out over these last half decade or so. Eric Kendricks is a great player. They still got Danielle Hunter. I'm really excited to see what the Vikings can do this year. I think they're a sleeper in that division. The Packers are going to be the Packers, though. I think you look at what the two running backs there in Green Bay can do with Rodgers' arm. They still have Big Bob Tunyon. They've got some guys. I think Christian Watson, if healthy, could be a contributor. I really like Romeo Doubs. I liked him quite a bit in the draft process this year, and Jordan and I, we had extensive talks about Romeo Doubs. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I think the Vikings are a team that could really take the league by storm this year, and that kind of leads into what I'm thinking on the next one. So, Jordan, if you don't mind, you want to go ahead and hit that next one?
Yeah, and see, I am going to go with Dan Campbell here. MCDC, huge fans. I don't know, just for the reasons you said. Hard Knocks was awesome this year, the best it's been in years for sure. I think they're really going to start to turn the page. You get rid of Jared Goff at the end of the year. You got plenty of quarterbacks in next year's draft, but I think they really take a step up this year. I think they want to win. They've been bad for so long that I think it's time for them to do something good. I think they go from, that one win up to, maybe 7, something like that. But just a turnaround, I see them, or I see Dan Campbell getting that job. Moving on to Offensive Player of the Year, you and I actually have the same choice here. And it is Justin Jefferson, wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. Absolute stud. I do not think Jamar Chase is going to be anywhere close to what he was last year. Especially if especially if referees want to start calling pass interference. But no judgment here. But no, I'm going with Justin Jefferson here. I think he's absolutely about to set the league on fire if he hasn't already. So get ready to see lots of gritty time because I think Justin Jefferson is coming for that receiving title.
Yeah, 100% on the same page with that. I think the influx of what that offense will be, he's going to be their Cooper Kupp. That's how they're going to scheme. That's really what Kevin O'Connell knows. I mean, he doesn't really know much else. So you got to expect for the scheme to free these guys up in a way that they haven't been under Zimmer. And Kirk Cousins is going to elevate, I think. For the first time in his career there in Minnesota, he's given the platform to be a leader, given the platform to take this team kind of by the reins in a way that Patrick has control of what they have there in Kansas City and guys like Rodgers. He's really getting the opportunity to be that franchise guy won last year because they gotta keep him. That contract, you can't move off of it. It's not tradable. So you got to go all in. And with the weapons they have offensively and what he's done in the past from just pure statistical standpoint, I think Jefferson really, really is going to contribute greatly. And he's going to benefit greatly from O'Connell's addition and then a new offensive scheme. So really excited for him. I'm thinking maybe Thielen won't be as touchdown dependent this year from like a fantasy perspective. And it'll be interesting to see how that third spot shakes out. For some reason, like I said, off the top of my head, I feel like they just recently made an addition in that room, but I can't remember who it is, unfortunately. But, we're on the same page with Offensive Player of the Year. Now, this is the award that I think is the most top-heavy from an odds perspective, but I really, really like this one guy. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and take it.
No, go ahead.
The guy here, not a big fan of the team, but at the end of the day, you got to respect what he's done. I was a skeptic on Micah Parsons. I thought with everything he was dealing with the Penn State controversial off-the-field behavior, I didn't know what it would be like early on. I never imagined he would be what he was. I thought he was a tweener at the position and was going to struggle. Is he a rusher? Is he a linebacker? Is he neither? I was wrong. I can admit I was wrong. And I really think he's the guy that's going to separate himself. If he can produce from a sack perspective in a full season opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence, rushing the passer, and then also making impacts in the passing game as a linebacker, he's a guy that's got the whole package. He can play both positions at a very elite level. And you look at the guy, there's a little bit of positional fatigue, between, you look at Myles Garrett, he's always up there at the top. Aaron Donald should win it every year. He's the most dominant defensive player that this league's seen since probably a guy like Reggie White or Lawrence Taylor. I like to throw Derek Thomas in there, but I still feel like maybe there is a little bit of a gap even still with DT. Donald is the most dominant player, but there's that award fatigue. We see it with Tom Brady. We've seen it with Bill Belichick. So, I mean, you've got Garrett, you've got Donald. Watt just won it last year. I don't really see him repeating that performance. I genuinely don't. They're younger on offense. There's not a veteran presence there in the leadership. I think they're going to have a more like boom or bust offense. The defense is going to be on the field a lot more. And he gets hurt a lot. TJ Watt gets banged up frequently. And he's taken his relief onto the sideline pretty frequently if you sit and watch Pittsburgh repeatedly. So I just like Micah Parsons. I like his motor. I like what he's in a position to do there in Dallas. And I think he's a real guy that could come in there and carry that team defensively with the combination of Diggs when he decides to turn his head around and track the football, and DeMarcus Lawrence. They've got the making of something special there. Hopefully we'll see a little bit of a resurgence from Leighton Vander Esch, who I know you and I early on really liked him, but he struggled. I don't know if he's lost the athleticism in the pass game or what it is, but really like Micah Parsons. Think he's going to be a special player this year, and looking forward to him hopefully making me correct and winning the Defensive Player of the Year.
I'm going to take a guy that I never thought I would say. It actually pains me to say, but I am taking Max Crosby for Defensive Player of the Year. This guy's just gotten better every single year. And I think this is the year that he becomes that dominant guy that everyone has seen him become, right before our eyes the last few years. I hate saying it because he's a Raider, obviously, but I think Max Crosby is taking that title. But moving on, getting through these real quick before we get to Super Bowl matchup and then talking about Chiefs, Cardinals. Marcus, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I actually have George Pickens here. A lot of people are going to say, what are you doing with that? But if the preseason told us anything, it's that George Pickens is going to be a stud. He blocks well. He catches the ball, has a great catch radius. He's got great hands. Honestly, I wanted the Chiefs to draft him when we had the chance. You were here with me watching the draft. We both thought George Pickens would come up. Happy with Sky Moore, absolutely. But I think George Pickens takes the cake here. Who do you got?
See, it's tough for me because I agree from where your mind's at on Pickens, but I'm worried about two things with him. A, really the quarterback. At receiver, you gotta catch the ball. I mean, catching the ball is half of it, but getting it thrown to you is the other. I don't trust Trubisky. I don't really trust Kenny Pickett. A lot of people's favorite for the awards, Kenny Pickett, just because he's one of the only quarterbacks there's a path to get some snaps. But I really see Trubisky holding that job down for a majority of the year, so I'm not going to go Pickett. Pickens, I'm worried about him for a couple reasons. It's really target share. Deontay Johnson's their guy. I don't think they've come off of Chase Claypool like people think they have. He's talented. He's shown it. He struggled with losing the football last year and had some drop issues, I do believe. But I'm not really in on Pickens either because of target share. The guy I think that's going to get the biggest opportunity to make an impact is Breece Hall. And that one pains me because as a K-State guy, I cannot stand Iowa State. Most delusional, overrated football team. Matt Campbell's not near what people chalk him up to be, Mr. 7-5, but that's a whole nother can of worms. So it pains me on the Breece Hall front from a K-State perspective. I'm not a fan of him, but I think he's a good runner. I'm interested to see what they do with the split with him and Michael Carter, but they're not going to have Zach Wilson early. They lost Becton, I think. So they're really going to have to run the ball behind Elijah Vera Tucker and that interior line. And you look, I think George Fant's their other tackle. I think he's a better run blocker than a pass blocker. I think Breece Hall's got that upside. And it's a lot easier to produce getting that ball in your hand immediately than having to rely on a quarterback to get it to you. So, yeah, Breece Hall's going to be my pick. I think he's a guy that could surpass that 1,000 all-purpose yards with ease, and he may even be a guy that could get over the 1,000-yard mark from a rushing perspective. So if he does that, I think he's a shoe-in for it because I think Pickens is going to struggle with targets, and I think Kenny Pickett may not even be the starter. So I'm going to go with Breece Hall.
All right, two more picks here. Let's get through them real quick. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I have Sauce Gardner here. I have him leading all rookies in interceptions. Honestly, I just went with a lucky guess there. It's kind of a toss-up between a few guys, but I've got Sauce Gardner. Who you got?
Defensive player is interesting because there's so many guys that are similar. Like you look at the top three pass rushers, you got Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Walker. than guys like Jermaine Johnson and George Karlaftis that are going to have the opportunities, I think. It's just who produces. But, man, I'll tell you what, watching Hard Knocks, Aiden Hutchinson looks like the real deal. And I don't know if that's – I mean, they have Taylor Decker, who's a good tackle. What he showed in practice shows me that he has the potential to be great. And then you look at the breakdowns of the actual preseason games, he was dominating on all levels, the ones and twos. I don't think he ever played within the 3 grouping, but I think he's a guy that's going to make that immediate impact. He's got that Detroit grit to him that Campbell possesses and carries, and he's the perfect Detroit Lion with this staff, with this scheme defensively. I think he's probably going to lead all rookies in sacks. And with a award like this, you want the sexy stats. It's picks, it's fumbles forced, it's sacks. I think Hutchinson can provide 2 of those 3, and he may even end up with a lucky interception. He batted the ball down a few times in the preseason on the line. I overall think he has the best work ethic and consistency, and he's got that motor, kind of like a guy like Karlaftis, but he also has a little bit more athleticism, I would say. So Aiden Hutchinson's my pick there. And then I'll go ahead and hit the comeback player of the year. This one's intriguing because a lot of people, just from the injury standpoint, Derrick Henry. I'm really worried about a re-injury with Derrick Henry. Those foot injuries linger. And a guy that carries his type of stature and the workload that they put on him, I'm very worried about re-injury from him. So with that being said, I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey. And the same argument can be made for McCaffrey, but I really feel like there's going to be some weight taken off of his shoulders with a real quarterback that can sling the ball a little bit. And he hasn't had that in a while. He really hasn't had that since prime Cam, his first few years in the league. Bridgewater was kind of the bridge guy, no pun intended. And then you look at a guy like Darnold last year, very up and down, very inconsistent. They had to ride McCaffrey. The workload was intensified. They've got a guy like Chuba Hubbard there behind him that I have trust in relief, in a situation where they need to come in and take a few carries off of him. I think the goal for the Panthers this year needs to be using him in spurts and getting him through the 17-game season. That's really where I look at it, and I think if he can do that, he's going to put up well over 1,000 all-purpose yards and be one of the stars of this season. So Christian McCaffrey's who I've got for comeback player of the year.
I'm going to agree with you there. Completely agree. Christian McCaffrey, I think the numbers never lie. So I think he's going to put up big numbers and, be back to his old self. Hopefully stays healthy. Super Bowl matchup. Who you got? Don't give me like a synopsis of why.
Okay.
Just give me a shot out of a cannon. Who do you got?
I got Chiefs-Rams. Chiefs winning at 34-28.
I have Buffalo and the Minnesota Vikings.
Wow.
I have Buffalo. I know. I have Buffalo 35-17.
I wanted to do it. I just couldn't. I like Minnesota.
I know. It's tough. I wanted to be a homer, but I couldn't. Let's move on. It is finally time to talk game preview.
Yeah.
It has been a long, long time since we have talked game previews. Next week, after the game, we'll be giving out game balls, things like that. But let's go ahead and dive into this. Kansas City Chiefs at the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona started off hot last year. I think they started off 7-0 before they even lost a game, and then they kind of fell off. They did have some injuries. J.J. Watt was one of those. I'm not sure if he's even going to play on Sunday, but it's a 4:15 game or 3:15 game if you're here in Central Time. So it's going to be a while before we get to watch him play. But anyways, excited for it, ready to go. Let's get into it. Who are some of the key players that we need to keep an eye on in this opening game here? Because, you talk offensively, Kyler Murray is obviously a weapon, can run it, can throw it, can run all outside the pocket, make plays with his legs, make plays outside the pocket, throwing it downfield. You saw with DeAndre Hopkins. Luckily, he's out for the first 6 weeks. Unfortunate for him, but good for us in this case. But I've got Kyler Murray as my guy to watch here on offense because, honestly, you stop him, I think you'll be fine. I don't think James Conner is going to have near the production that he did last year. But I think if you find a way to shut Kyler Murray down, either by using Willie Gay, quarterback spy him, keep someone fast that can contain him in the pocket, and our pass rush has got to get home. We struggled with that against scrambling quarterbacks last year. You look what Josh Allen did to us in the playoffs. I think you really have to contain Kyler Murray in order to win this game. But I'm curious to get your players.
I went back and forth on this a few times, but I think the key contributor with Hop being benched or sidelined essentially with this suspension, I think it's Hollywood Brown. You look at the connection they already have. Him and Kyler are very close friends off the field. There's a reason the man's in the building. They brought him to, Glendale. Can't remember where they're at, but I think it's Glendale. They brought him into that building there in Arizona for a reason. They have plans there. At the time, did they know that Hopkins was going to get suspended? I would say probably not, but it's worked out to where they're not going to be in the abyss or anything without him for 6 weeks. You look at Hollywood Brown. A.J. Green had a very underrated season. I mean, he was approaching 900 yards receiving, and people don't talk about it. He's still a guy. I mean, kind of like Julio. When you get to that peak, talent-wise, when you have that in the arsenal, even at 60% of what you once were, you're still a dominant piece. Look at Larry Fitz. That longevity never faded. He was still a consistent ball catcher, and he was somebody that was able to make an impact until the day he walked away from the game. So I could see A.J. Green having a little bit of an impact, but Hollywood Brown, for me, I think is going to be the deciding factor because I genuinely don't think you can beat this Chiefs team. With the improvements we made on the defensive side, they're going to be faster. And you look at last year, people say, oh, they're young, they're going to make mistakes mentally. I'm sorry, 49 made more mistakes mentally last year than I've ever seen from a single player. Tyrann Mathieu probably about threw his shoulders out of socket because they were always up in the air like this, like, Dan, what are you doing? So I don't see more mental mistakes from guys like Brian Cook, who's very, very intelligent and was a very successful college player. Same thing for Trent McDuffie. But as far as Arizona's offense is concerned, if they can shut down a guy like Hollywood Brown, it really limits what they can do offensively because I'm not afraid of a big play from James Conner. He's the guy that I don't want to face within the red zone, but I'm not afraid of him within the 20s. So I think it's got to be Hollywood Brown. And then defensively for me, really with the departure of Chandler Jones, the thing that scares you there is J.J. Watt and not much else outside of it. That defensive line.
Is he even going to play, though?
I'm not 100% sure it's JJ. I mean, it's up and down all the time. I know he's been having a little bit of issues, but to be transparent, I haven't had a chance today to check that injury report. But they should have released today following practice for both squads, so we may look into that and just kind of for our own personal. But if he does play, he's a guy and really the only guy along that defensive line that I'm worried about. Because you look at the departure of Chandler Jones, I mean, they're going to have Najee Sanders, which we were high on in the draft process, but he's a tweener. He's a small dude. Now, he put some weight on. I guess that's not true. He got to about 245 come draft day. And then Cam Thomas. I liked Cam Thomas a lot. He was a guy that we really, really enjoyed evaluating, and he was a guy that provided some plus on the pass rush side from the interior. That's really where he won a lot of times. But that also kind of feels redundant to a guy like J.J. Watt. So it'll be interesting to see what they bring on the outside at defensive end because they don't have a lot there that we know of. But I've heard some things about some guys that are unheralded talent that they have confidence in. So we'll see. And I think Sanders will be a guy that rushes from the edge just from a size perspective. So, but I got to go with J.J. Watt because he's really the only guy that puts that fear in you. I'll go ahead and hit my stuff for the Chiefs. The big thing for me is, and it dates back to that damn Cincinnati game. Are we going to run the ball? Our defense is going to dare us to run it. We're going to look at them and say, no, we'll throw right at you and your 9-man coverage. Are we going to do that again? Because if we are, I might as well just not even turn on the TV because it cost us a Super Bowl. It's cost us endless times. It's cost Andy repeatedly in his career. At some point, you got to run the ball. I get it. 15's incredible. You probably have the best chance to win the game with the ball in his hand. But when they're daring you to run it, take them up on it. You got to take what they give you. And I think the mindset of the organization's changed. I think the mindset of the coaching staff and the players has changed. Okay, if you want to take that deep pass, we're going to beat you elsewhere. And Pat's really bought into it. You can see it. I mean, his press conference today, he's speaking on the fact that this is going to be a spread the ball around. I mean, he apologizes to fantasy owners in his press conference because they have no intention of feeding anybody. And they know what it is. Travis is going to get double teamed. He's going to be bracket covered every game. But it's still Travis. You're not going to shut that man down. As long, barring injury or regression, he's not stoppable. That's not a thing. So how do we work the offense off of him? I think the run game is going to be the massive part of it that people aren't ready for. You look at this offensive line. We had one of the best expected yards per carry based on the blocking and the efficiency of the offensive line of any team in the league. And I would say left to right, if we can get Lucas Niang back in the mix, I think we have a top 3 line without any question. Maybe first. They've got some good ones in the league. I like the Eagles line. They've got a good line. Cleveland did, but I think it's dispersed a little bit. But all in all, the Chargers have made a lot of improvements along their line. I just feel like CEH is going to be the deciding factor on how this season really turns out. And that's sad to say because we've got so much talent elsewhere from the pass catching perspective. But if he's not efficient and Pacheco's not ready to take this leap, we might be in some real trouble. And we've seen that run game kind of be our kryptonite in the moments that matter. And it's really not that we don't run well. We're running the ball great. It's just as Big Red got.
Well, I mean, you look at a guy like Jerick McKinnon. I mean, Jerick McKinnon turned on really there in the playoffs last year. I mean, he was kind of the bell cow, honestly. I mean, he was catching passes. He was running the ball. I mean, he runs hard. Like, he runs with purpose.
Yeah, see, and I think you got to be willing to save that man because he does have injury problems. McKinnon does.
Right.
I think that may be a big factor to why Rojo's on this roster. You give Clyde the opportunities, but if Clyde's struggling or gets banged up, which unfortunately just seems inevitable at this point, you have Pacheco, who has that big play ability. You bring him in spurts. He's your change of pace back. He's the guy that's going to be able to come in on third down and break those big chunk plays that the other backs don't have that long speed to do. And then you use Rojo between the tackles. You use him as a player to give that bell cow relief from Clyde so we don't deal with the same injury issues. And you save a guy like McKinnon until you're coming up on the games that matter. Week 14 through 17, playoffs. If you've got him coming in with fresh legs, he's the burst that the running game will probably need come late season to be that differentiator because the line's going to open holes. It's just can the guy that's going through them see him and get there? And that's really what the story's been last year, and then it'll be the same this season. So really interested to see. I'm rooting for Clyde. I want him to be effective. I think he's got the skills to do it. And it's just, are you going to step up, and is your body going to allow you to? So Clyde's important to me. Willie Gay Jr., I think Willie Gay Jr. is going to be an absolute superstar. If I was to put my faith in one guy, he's got the energy. He's the hype man. The team loves him. The franchise loves him. I know the fan base loves him. I haven't bought a jersey because I'm not trying to sport that last name on my back just for joking purposes, but that's a whole other story. I love the player, though. I think he's the perfect linebacker for this scheme. I think he's the type of guy that's going to go sideline to sideline. He's going to make the impact. He's going to make those plays. He's looked like the fastest defensive player that I've really seen, the most instinctive, the most reactive defensive player I've seen this preseason. That's not a household name. So I definitely keep an eye on Willie Gay Jr. this weekend come Sunday. And James Conner better strap in because he's going to be getting thumped. You've got 32 and you've got 50, and they're coming for you. And the whole league needs to be on notice because I think we have the best youth. I mean, you put Leo Chanel coming downhill in this. I think we have some of the most physically and athletically gifted. Yeah, he'll hit. And we talked about this off camera. We're losing that line of the scrimmage blitzing package that Spags like to use with the safeties. I think you can use a similar look and then just put Leo in there because he's so efficient and so fast downhill. He's going to be able to hop in there and blitz at a rate that even Tyron, who's very elite at blitzing from the safety position, couldn't do. So I'm interested to see how they deploy him, especially if they don't bring Elijah Lee up because it looks like Leo Chanel's going to be that starter in the base set there at the Sam linebacker. So really excited for that. But I think Willie Gay is going to be the impact guy and the guy that when we're talking week 17, this really had that breakout barring injury and everything. So looking forward to that. Just honestly, man, I'm excited for the game. I'm excited to get into it. I'm excited to just see what we've got because there's so much uncertainty right now around the team. So no, I know there's a couple you want to.
We haven't seen much. I mean, all we've seen is a couple series from the starters. I mean, we haven't really seen much what to expect. We haven't seen Juju Smith-Schuster. We haven't seen many targets to a lot of these guys. So I'm excited to see what Andy has up his sleeve and what he what he calls and how we play. I mean, if defense plays like the starters did in preseason, I think we'll be all right. But like I said earlier, you've got to keep Kyler Murray intact. You have to keep him in the pocket, make him uncomfortable, and finish. You got to wrap up. You got to get him on the ground. I think that's the only way that, we keep him contained. But aside from that, give me your score prediction before we get off here.
I'm going to go 34-31 Kansas City. I think Arizona shocks some people. I'm a little bit worried about our inability to contain Kyler because schematically they run that spread style. We're going to have to use our linebackers that have that ability and Nick and Willie to actually cover the pass. I'm worried about Leo sideline to sideline. His change of direction's not great. His downhill speed's incredible. He's one of the most puzzling athletes I've ever seen because the straight speed's awesome. The downhill speed's incredible. His instinctual, he has good play recognition, but his sideline to sideline and changing direction's a little bit worrisome. And that's not a good matchup with Kyler. So I'm a little worried about that. I think they're going to put up points. They're going to have a good pass game. James Conner's going to be the guy that can execute those short yardage just with his frame and his running style. He's a hard runner. And I don't know. I'm a little worried about this defense from a run stop perspective. I wasn't a couple weeks ago when we had Danny Shelton and guys like that in the fold, but Turk hasn't showed a lot of run stopping ability. We don't really know what we have in Colin Saunders. We see flashes every once in a while. I'm not confident in Chris. Outside of Derek Nottie, there's not a lot of run stop in this D-line. So be interesting to see. We know Frank's dropped some weight. I'm worried about him in the run game. Mike Dana's a consistent guy. And if you look on the depth chart, don't be alarmed. I mean, Karlaftis isn't listed as a starter. It's Dana and Frank. But that's all primarily based on first down. They like Mike Dana a lot on the run primary downs and early downs. So look forward to George getting in a game that matters. That motor's impressive, and I think he's been dialing it back just a couple percentages. I think they're going to unleash him. The guy that I didn't list that I'm really interested to see what happens is LJ Snead, because if Legarius doesn't come out and play like a CB1 early on, we might be in some trouble, especially if you look at who we're facing from a wide receiver perspective early on. This is the hardest schedule in NFL history. But I look at it this way. If 15 steps up and this team drops 12 wins, there ain't anybody in this world that should speak negative because this is the hardest schedule there's ever been. But that's my 2 cents. As always, like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification so you do get those notifications when we post some new content. Just keep up to date with Chiefs Kingdom as a whole and us here at KC Tailgaters. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to another season. We're back in season 3, man. I'm just hopefully running towards another Super Bowl. Maybe we run the ball and we would have had 2 or 3 at this point. But, hey, we're still looking for that second one. But, hey, good as time. Why not us? Good as time as any.
For sure. I'm going to take the Chiefs 31-21. The line, if you're into betting, it's at 6 right now. Either way, so I think it opened at 3.5, so I think it's up to 6 now. So get your bets in. I think DraftKings has a special deal going on right now, plus 100 if the Chiefs score 1 point or more. So double your money up to $50. It's $300. I mean, why not throw it in?
Yeah.
But anyway, 31-21 Chiefs. I don't see the Cardinals keeping up with us until late. Andy likes to coast at times, and although we give him crap for it, we still win. So, but 31-21 Kansas City Chiefs. It's time to get off of here, guys. We will be back next Monday or Tuesday, possibly. We'll give you that recap of that game. We're going to talk offensive, defensive players. We're going to give away game balls and talk about our Week 2 matchup coming up on an early week back at home against the Chargers. So stay tuned. We've got a lot more coming to you guys. I'm Jordan Anderson. With me, as always, my guy, Marcus Baker. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you down the line. Go Chiefs.